Hi, my name's Phil Williams and we're going to have a look at this, the new bass amp from Ashdown. This is the Klystron bass magnifier. It's a 1000 watt bass head. It's a lovely looking piece of gear. This one's made in England. And also we've got the neodyme cab here, which is a 4x10 cabinet. Nice light cabinet, weighs 32 kilos, so you won't break your back, and sounds really, really great. This cab sounds fantastic. So head-wise, it's got a fairly kind of retro look to it. We've got a valve in it on the front end, and it's a transistor power amp stage. On the front here, we've got the input, and then underneath this we have a knob for passive active basses. There's a push flat, so you can just push your EQ. This little button will flatten out all the EQ just to hear what your EQ is like as flat. Basically, the amp sounds great when you plug it in. I think that's always a good sign with an amp. You plug it in immediately before you actually even do anything. It sounds good. So we move along to the EQ stage, and we've got bass on a rotary knob, middle and treble, all on rotary knobs. And then we've got these little graphic sliders in between that cover the frequencies in between each of these, in between your bass, middle and treble. So it works a little bit like a graphic EQ. With 3 knobs. Down to the bottom, we've got this rotary knob that brings in the valve, the preamp valve. You can have it fairly clean, and then as you move it round, it gets kind of dirtier. This is great actually for a lot of applications. I mean, it really does add not only kind of a dirty edge, but actually adds a kind of an edgy, glassy edge to it, which is really nice. It kind of makes the bass kind of stand out. It's great. We've got an in and out button for that. Then we've got EQ in and out, so you can take the EQ in and out here. Compressor, which is a new one for Ashdown. It's a lovely compressor, great for bass. They've obviously spent some time working on that one. It doesn't really choke the notes on the bass. You still can hear what the bass is doing. Moved along here to the subharmonics thing. Ashdown bass amps have always had this kind of subharmonic thing on their amps, and it's a lovely kind of octavider effect. It tracks really well, even tracks right down to the low notes. So using all of these compressors, the valve drive and this subharmonics thing, you can get some real funky sounds out of it. And there's tons of beef in the amp to kind of put that across as well. So finally, right to the far end, we've got the DI out on the front, which is great, so you don't have to fiddle about in the dark on the back to try and find your DI. We've got it's got the basic pre and post gain, so if you want to send your EQ to the front desk, fine, or you just have it flat to the front desk. We've got the mute button, so that when you pull your basses or you're changing your basses on stage, there's not an almighty bang. And we go to the output stage, really, just your output overall volume once you've set it up. Tuner out, straight down to your tuner on the floor, which is great, and a line out. And all of the front end here with the EQ, the valve, the compressor, and the subharmonics is controlled by a foot pedal that you get with it, which is great. So you can kick it in and out within the tunes, which is a very handy feature. Basically, you set up your valve settings here. We've got the valve switch. Then you can switch it in and out from here. Same with the EQ. Just switch it in and out from here. Compressor, same here. Then your sub-octave, same here. Basically, within a song, if you want to switch these features in and out, this is, you know, a vital piece of kit. So, great stuff. Okay, let's see what it sounds like. Okay, I've plugged in. I'm set my input gain roughly. So what we have is with this VU meter, I want to get it to around about where the red is. You tend to find when you're actually playing, when you're setting this up, you might be kind of clouting it a bit and seeing the VU meter not move. But when you're actually playing with a band, you tend to find it goes a bit more up into the red. So that's good for me. This is completely flat now. I haven't got anything switched in at all. So we've just got basically my bass plugged straight into the amp, which is a great start. I think it sounds good. What I'm going to do here, I've already selected the passive active. This is actually an active bass, so I've got it on the active setting. Above that is a push flat shape button. Now this gives a kind of preordained graphic shape or shape to the EQ before you start messing with it. So let's stick that in. So it's added quite a lot of bottom end to it and warmth, which is great. That sounds great, just like that. As we move along, we come to this valve knob here, which is switched off. I'm going to switch it in. Now this adds that warm kind of valvey tones. The earlier part of the rotary pot is fairly clean and warm. As you dial it right round, it becomes really, really dirty. Now I'd probably have a little bit of this on for my sound anyway, that warms it up generally. If you're going to wind it right round, probably great with a plectrum, and it gets a bit more like a overdriven Ampeg or any of those amps with valves in that start to get a bit edgy. You can hear the valve breaking up. It gives you that kind of rocky valve, overdriven valve sound. Okay, I'm going to switch this out, and I'm going to move along to the EQ section. I'll switch the EQ in here. This has all been without EQ so far, apart from the pre-shape. I'll switch this in. Adds even more kind of welly to the bottom end. Really, I like EQs to be pretty simple, and this does exactly what it says here. All the EQs sound great. They add the frequencies that they're saying in huge amounts. So really a lot of experimentation with this. This will come up with every sound you'd ever wanted, really. From earthquake to very thin. So yeah, in between each of these we have little graphic sliders, and they cover the frequencies in between each of these from 180 Hertz here up to 2.6 Hertz on the other side of the slider, on this one here. So really that's the EQ section. I'm going to switch that out for the minute, and then we'll move along to the compressor. I'll switch that in. So we can hear it kicked in already. It's a nice subtle compression, and as I bring the slider up, it'd be great for maybe if you're playing some chordal stuff. It tends to bring out the notes, make them sing longer. I mean, for specifically, a lot of different uses, obviously, for compressors, particularly in the studio. But if you're playing solo stuff, they're always a nice feature. Bringing out maybe even harmonic stuff just sounds great. So really, you shouldn't have too much problem getting some great sounds with this little device. And it goes, I've only got the compression on halfway there. We can turn it right up here. It makes it very snappy, tight, with a kind of front end to it, which is great. Okay, I'm going to switch this out, and we move along to the subharmonics here. Another great feature. This is another great maybe solo feature. This works beautifully. I really like these. I think like a octavider effect on the bass is one of the most effective sounds, I think, bass-wise, apart from some chorus and a couple, but this is one of the main ones for me. So I've got it on slightly